because it's important to connect with the reality of the situation in Gaza. Specifically, it's important to connect with the pain of Gaza in order for us to feel the humanity inside ourselves to then actually do something about it. And that's why I made the video, and that's why I showed the video, to bring home the true nature of the situation. And just before I came in the room, went to the washroom, and I was thinking that I've totally chosen the wrong name for this world speaking tour. It's called Reporting Aggression. It should have been called Reporting State Terrorism. Far more appropriate. I wanted to thank the organisers of this Malaysian tour, the Palestinian Malaysia. Thank you very much, and please could we give them a round of applause. Also, if we could thank the venue as well, and also those that made the world tour possible as well, dozens of international organisers as well. It struck me today, doing some media interviews with the press particularly, that there is a slight problem with some of the perhaps this sounds incredibly naive, and I'm more aware about that. But there is a problem, which is that the message that I am trying to communicate tonight, and the message that I'm trying to communicate on the world tour, and there are several messages as you will hear, is that some of the media put the attention on the messenger, and they don't listen to the message. One example of this actually was during the wartime, when I was reporting, as Mike was talking about. And there was I think it was a Norwegian TV crew. And, I mean, I almost can't articulate it. It's so unbelievable. But they decided that while they're in Gaza during the war, just living down the road from me, but they were staying in a hotel. And they decided to make their video report, I think it was their first day in Gaza, so it was their premiere video report during the war. Not about the war, but about me reporting about the war. I mean, it's funny, but it's very terrible, actually. And the same phenomenon today with the interviews and etc. As if I'm important, and I'm not important. You know, you haven't come to listen to my biography. You know, you've come to listen to my experience of being in Gaza. And the gentleman just interviewed me now saying, what's your first message tonight? And I told him specifically tonight, this is the first message, which is that I want to tell the audience, and I hope they already know, that there's nothing special about me or what I've done by going to Gaza or reporting in Gaza. The special thing is the remarkable fact that Palestinians have been able to survive for 65 years against the Israeli state. That's the remarkable and special thing. So I just had to say that. We don't have so much time, actually, to talk tonight, so I will take a very large gulp of coffee and give you my accelerated version. When I started this tour on the 5th of December, only a few days later was this tragedy. This Israeli soldier, this young girl, basically, young woman serving in the Israeli Defense Forces, technically speaking the Israeli occupation forces at the time, killed this 17-year-old boy. He was celebrating his 17th birthday on the 12th of December last year, 12th of the 12th and 12th, when he was shot 6 times in the chest by the Israeli soldier, who was commended for defending the Israeli state, for defending Israel's borders and securing its borders. And this immediately hit home for me that I'm not in Palestine. This was one of the days following leaving Gaza. And the important thing is that this is an ongoing emergency tragedy. You know, there's a drip of Palestinians being killed. I will tell you now, rather than later, when it comes to talking about the aftermath of the recent war, which will be the main focus tonight, that since the ceasefire that came into place, that stopped the recent 8-day war, 4 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. The first on November 24th, on day 3 of post-ceasefire. Literally, the fire did not cease from the Israeli side, killing Anwar Kadeh, 23 years old, on November 24th, shot in the mouth. Another man died later in his injury. Died later from his live fire injury sustained when he was shot in the Rafah area, which is the southernmost area of the Gaza Strip, on January 11th. Mohammed al-Mamlouk, killed in Jabalia, east of Gaza City, under similar circumstances, January 15th. Mustafa Abu Jarad, 20-year-old farmer, shot in the forehead by an Israeli soldier in Beit Lahia, North Gaza. This is post the ceasefire. So the general situation is that today, things are not dramatically better than they were 6 months ago. And part of this tragedy, and one of the important structural problems with this conflict, is that the media doesn't report properly. In the United States, just a few weeks ago, we had the Newtown shootings, where crazy killers were responsible for the death of 26 children. 120 million news results covering this incident around the world. The 8-day Gaza war took the lives of 59 Palestinian children. How many news results? Less than 90,000. The consequences, the analysis is that quite obviously there is a difference in the treatment of different people and in respect to their humanity. And this is one of the essential problems that we face with regard to the media. And that's why I go to Gaza, to try to address this imbalance and try to do my thing to try and address it and combat this problem. And literally just a few days back, more Palestinians were killed. And it's not just in Gaza that they're killed, it's the other bit of Palestine that's left, the West Bank as well. Another man, Samir Awad, 17 years old, shot apparently by eyewitnesses in the back by an Israeli soldier. It goes on, it goes on, it goes on. As Mike said, how long do we want it to go on? It's in our hands. So I went to Gaza for 12 weeks last year, about 3 months, in 2 separate trips for reporting the situation. And as I said, I go as a member of the press, very much aware that there is a pre-existing deficit of information and understanding with regard to the situation in Gaza. For several reasons, but the first is to underline the fact that this is not a religious conflict, and this is obviously the Islamic call to worship that we hear at least 5 times in the Gaza Strip. It's explicitly not a religious conflict. Palestinians comprise not just Muslims, but Christians, etc. And this is one of the fun things I found interesting in Malaysia, was that there is somewhat of a preoccupation, but it's oppression of Muslims. That's what the situation is in Palestine. It's very important that we try and raise that as the main understanding of the situation, because actually that is something that Israel would like us to do, to see it as a religious situation. And it works in Israel's advantage to have people preoccupied with religion and this conflict. And of course it's not a religious conflict, it's a political conflict. And when the solution comes, it will be not a religious solution, but a political solution. I'd like to begin explicitly talking about Gaza by reading a quote by a friend of mine, Yusuf al-Jaman. He lives in Gaza, Palestine. The people of Palestine, specifically the people of Gaza, have gone through the most painful tragedies in life. Yet they never thought of giving up, for they fight for a noble cause. Freedom is our destination, and we are ready to endure whatever is waiting for us ahead. Killing, land confiscation, night raids, airstrikes will make us but more determined to continue the battle for a better tomorrow. Now this is summarizing the situation well, I think, because you hear of the extraordinary suffering, but you also hear of the extraordinary steadfastness and hopefulness. And this is, in a way, kind of the hidden gem of the situation in Gaza. Just that ostensibly the situation is extraordinarily grim. The trajectory is not looking good under the historical trajectory. But at the same time, the almost universal situation is one of psychological or spiritual faith and hopefulness. And I will try, if we have time, to reiterate that during tonight's talk, because it's very, very important in my opinion. Now, one of the situations in Gaza, generally speaking, is that it's subjected to various stereotypes. The whole place is rubble, that the humans don't look like us, that they don't suffer like us, and etc. Obviously this is not true. And me, myself, working in Gaza, I'm able to work with a good relationship in respect of it's not difficult to work there as a journalist or a storyteller or filmmaker, whatever you want to call it, with the exception of the insecurity from Israel, not from Palestinians. It's easy because everyone has a tragedy to tell, and everyone has an important story that the world should hear. Think of what happened in winter 2008-9, the 22-day Gaza war. Almost 1% of the population wiped off the face of the map. So as you can imagine, there are just a few stories that the world ought to hear. Indeed, also getting access to officials is of no problem either, because they're also desperate, so to speak, to get their message out to the world. One of these deficits that exists in the Western media, particularly in regard to the understanding of the Israel-Palestine conflict, generally isn't an understanding of the Israel-Palestine conflict, but so much as there is an understanding, one of the problems is that Israel has managed to fairly well embed a tone or an image that the Palestinians never existed. That Palestine was some sort of mythical construct designed for Arab propaganda purposes, and that the whole culture, dialect, and etc., currency, the newspaper, the radio is all made up to delegitimize Israel, etc. So I found this, I mean, this is elementary, but I saw this in my Facebook newsfeed, a photograph by a Palestinian journalist showing a British mandate passport with Palestine written on it. This is a photograph from, excuse me, this is a passport from when Britain, my country, was occupying Palestine, someone else's country, and it's got Palestine written on it, a British issued British mandate Palestine passport. Fairly obviously hitting home the fact that Palestine obviously existed, and wiping off the map this idea that it didn't. And I want to spend less than a minute talking about the basic history, which is the oppressed or suppressed history about the situation in Palestine. I think it's important to think about it for a second before talking about the specifics of the situation in Gaza.